Talk Real Estate with Sharon McNamara, sponsored by Boston Connect Real Estate Services.
Hi, I'm your host, Sharon McNamara, and you are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. Let me share a little bit about my background before we get started. I am the broker-owner of Boston Connect Real Estate, a boutique firm that is home to over 30 real estate sales and marketing agents who service home buyers and home sellers throughout Boston, the South Shore, the South Coast, and Cape Cod. Our firm takes pride in assisting our clients in the next chapter of their lives by taking a holistic approach to their real estate endeavors. We believe that every move should be a moving experience. Every week, my co-host Melissa Wallace and I will provide you with my team's unique marketing approach to selling homes and share with you our expertise in navigating the home buying process. We value the experience of our agents at Boston Connect Real Estate so much that not only will you hear my perspective on real estate topics, occasionally you will hear the expert thoughts and opinions of our experienced agents at Boston Connect Real Estate. Be a part of our roundtable. If you have any questions during the show, please call 781-837-4900. We'd love to talk real estate. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and wherever you like to listen to podcasts at Talk Real Estate Roundtable. If you would like a one-on-one consultation with me and my team to discuss your real estate needs, you can connect with me at bostonconnect.com or 781-826-8000. Now, sit back, relax, take good notes, and let's talk real estate. Good morning to all my South Shore neighbors. This is Sharon McNamara. You are, of course, listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. And sounds like I have a frog in my throat, or maybe it's a little bit too much turkey. So I hope everybody had a great... I know. Oh, that was a good one. I hope everybody had a great turkey day and filled with all kinds of great goodness of stuffing and mashed potatoes and all the like. But most importantly, I hope that everybody enjoyed being with their family and friends and, you know, had something to be thankful for. So I know that's my favorite part of the day is when we go around the table. There were 18 of us this year at the McNamara household, and we each had something to say what we were thankful for, and every time it was family. But then Casey, of course, says, hey, no duplicates here. So there you go. So we all had to come up with something different. But I have my sidekick with me this morning, Melissa Wallace, and she had a wonderful Thanksgiving. I checked in with her this morning too, and she's just getting us live. If you're home and you want to watch us live on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, you can get us there. But of course, you should always be listening to WATD 95.9 because we have the best producer on the South Shore. I'd say all of Massachusetts. I'm going for it.
Oh, wow. I don't know about that, Sharon. That's very kind.
Well,
thank you.
You know what? I think that they just don't know how great you are. I'm letting everybody know. So good morning, Tim. How was your Thanksgiving?
Sharon. It was really nice. Thank you. Yeah, we had our parents over and lots of good food and stories, and it was a really nice time. How was your Thanksgiving?
Yeah, it was great. And you know, it's fun to hear the stories, even though if they're repeat stories or whatever, you know what I mean? It's still the stories that make you smile and laugh and all that. So who does all the cooking, you or Joel?
Joel does the cooking. I help with setup and cleaning. A little bit of cleaning. His mom jumps into the sink. We don't even ask her to. She'll just, and something's like, this can go in the dishwasher if you don't. And it's like, yeah. You know, and then is this clean? It's like, I don't know. I think so. Just, yeah.
Well, it's so funny when you said jumps into the sink, and I'm so used to everything is AI now. You know what I mean? So,
right.
Like, I'm just, when you said jump into
the
sink.
You thought she physically jumped into the sink?
That's what I was picturing. I was picturing Joel's mom jumping into the sink.
She's like one of the babies taking a bath in the sink.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So, in your Thanksgiving, Mel?
Yeah, we had a great Thanksgiving. It was small. We went to Ethan's parents' house in Rhode Island, so there was just the four of us, but it was great. We, had lots of yummy food, and of course we got sent home with our own turkey, and
your own full turkey.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Good for you. Jeez.
Yeah. It was the same last year, so I'm going to make a soup. And
nice.
So we had a really great time. And then we all made gingerbread houses afterwards. That's going to be our new tradition. We decorated gingerbread houses. And then, we just had a great time. Watched football.
Now, were they traditional gingerbread houses, or were they like a special one? Because I was in the store the other day, and they've got your average gingerbread houses, but then they have... I guess you call them the commercial gingerbread houses. Like you can make a Bruce Wayne manor for Batman.
Oh,
I saw, and God, what else did I see? And it's like, oh, that's fun.
So Ethan, Wendy, and I, we had traditional ones, and then Bill, Ethan's father, had a tractor and barn. So
cool.
So he had a fun little one, and we all decorated them, and we'll leave them outside for the critters to eat and have some fun. So, but it was great. Yeah, we had a pretty relaxing time, and then yesterday I just sort of did stuff around the house and got ready. We decorated for Christmas. We put our tree up and everything. So it's fun.
Good for you.
Yeah, I know you're bah humbug. You don't put your tree up.
Well,
you get a real tree.
Well, we usually do, but this will be our first year with a fake one. So because I bought one at the end of the season last year, so we were thinking about doing it. But I said to Mark yesterday, one of the nice things about the Thanksgiving holiday, it isn't about like the presents, it's about the people and the food and all that. And then yesterday was about the leftovers. Like I enjoy the leftovers. I tend to eat more leftovers than I do on Turkey Day just because, you're so busy. But I said, I woke up yesterday and didn't have anything I had to do.
Yeah.
What a feeling that is, huh?
We ate.
Yeah, look at even Tim is like, oh yeah, baby,
Yep.
You're speaking my language. It just felt good. I didn't have to put out the trash even because it was a day late.
Yeah, Ethan worked yesterday, and I just sort of did things. I got rid of my summer clothes, brought my winter clothes up, and I have 4 bags of donations just going through. Just need to get rid of some stuff. And then we brought all the Christmas stuff up once Ethan was done working. He was working from home, and we decorated, and we had leftovers and lots of pie and everything.
And here we are, back at it on Saturday, and we are live, and you are listening to Talk Real Estate Roundtable. Again, I'm Sharon McNamara with my sidekick, Melissa Wallace. And, of course, we have Tim McKinney in studio at WATD. If you want to share your favorite part of yesterday, feel free. I mean, it's just sort of one of those lazy Saturdays. And don't forget about your small stores and small businesses on Saturday, right? So go visit all of them as well. Call in 781-837-4900, 781-837-4900. You can either call in if you want to say hello to us, or you can text at that same number, and Tim will get your message over to us. And this is such a timely conversation for this topic. Do you want to let our listeners know what we're discussing today?
So we're going to be talking about some reasons why a property would stay on the market as opposed to some other ones that, sort of sell quickly. But we're just going to go through some of the reasons why some properties stay on the market longer than others. And I know we talked a few weeks ago, maybe we did like 2 weeks worth of shows of, just going through, okay, now is a great time to sell and things like that. But, just going through the market and what's sort of going on right now, there are some properties that have been sitting, and we'll sort of go through the reasons why. And pretty much it comes down to, pricing accordingly, what time you come on the market, what's your motivation, things like that. But we'll get more specific too.
All right, perfect. So I know that, there are situations. I was actually having a conversation yesterday. As much as I didn't have anything I had to do yesterday, I did make a couple phone calls, and I did do a couple things on my computer because, hey, I was just home and I was doing it at my pace. And I was speaking to a client who was looking at a property, and it's a property that's in a well-known sort of development in this area and sort of a community. And one of the caveats of living in this neighborhood is that when you go to sell your house, you have to be on the market with them for minimally 60 days before you can put it out on the market with anybody, which to me, I don't like that.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be a buyer's agent and I'm going to help my client find a house, I can't understand why you can put that stipulation in there that your sales team is the one, if they decide to sell in 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years, that, you're the one that will be helping my client at that time. I don't really like that, but those are the rules. And if you want to live there, you have to go by their rules. It's that easy, right?
Yeah. I mean, I more so don't like that in the sense of like, it doesn't it's not broadcasted to the general public unless you're specifically looking in that area and only that area. So I think that, if you can be, quote unquote, if you're watching us on social media, I have my air quotes, if you could be on the market for 60 days, get no offers and not a lot of activity, it's because you're not being showcased in the same light as if you were, generally on a normal, MLS and things like that.
Oh, I just choked on nothing. I just couldn't find us on Instagram. Sorry about that, Mel.
So you go to the stories.
Oh, right there. Yeah. Okay, there we are. Well, maybe not. I don't know what's going on here. So, anyways, yeah. So that is the situation in that one place is, you have to be on the market for 60 days. And I also think that that's a disservice to people. And I think when you have those types of things, those rules and regulations and things like that, I just feel as if it isn't really fair to the general public either, because, my client does have interest in a property down in that area. And it's like you have to make the phone calls, which again, as a listing agent, I understand, as a buyer's agent, I understand what's going on in there. But like you said, the general public probably does not know what's going on in there. So, you have to make the time to call the listing agent on it. But when I'm working for somebody as a buyer's agent, I'm also pulling comparisons, right? Yeah. And if I can't see that house has already been on the market for 60 days, I don't think that that's really fair to a consumer.
Yeah. Well, also, by the time we come in and we show the property, we have to tell our client, by the way, it was on for 60 days. There was no offers, no activity. And
if we find out, though, some agents might not even know to ask the question.
But with us, I feel like we're pretty. Yeah,
we do.
We're pretty hip, and we get that. So, but what do you think that a buyer is gonna think when you say, "Oh, it's already been on the market for 60 days"?
What's wrong with it?
Yeah. Oh, well, then I'm not going to go in at full price.
Exactly. That's the thing.
Which I think that's a disservice to the seller.
Mm-hmm. Which again is one of those reasons why when we started this little conversation is, I understand that these are the rules. You have to play by their rules when you move into their neighborhoods. But does the person who's buying it really fully understand the consequences of that? Because if you think about it, we're in a market right now that isn't really struggling. I feel like it's starting to a bit, right? Unlike, my friends, of course, I have a bunch of, clients throughout the country that I am on Clubhouse with. And, Florida, dead. Mackenzie just bought a house in Texas. So much inventory. I can't believe it, and it isn't moving. So if we get into a situation like that and then adding an additional 60 days to the front of it, I think that that's going to, have some severe consequences for people who are trying to get their house sold.
Yeah. Like I said, there's so many different factors as to why, and we call it days on market. So
DOM.
So, it's the days that are literally on the market, and the general public is looking at that. And there's just so many different reasons. And from the properties that I'm sort of familiar with, but when I came up with the idea for the show, I just sort of thought, okay, well, that would be the reason why that's been on the market for a while. With you guys, with new construction, I mean, you guys have high days on market because of its new construction. Can you explain that a little bit and why?
Yeah, absolutely. And I know, this first came to my realization. As you know, and for our listeners who listen to me all the time, I don't judge my success by numbers, right? I don't gauge success by numbers. I gauge my success by how happy my clients are. And so a lot of times I'm not looking at statistics that are like gloaty for real estate agents. Like, I sold this many houses this year. Who actually cares?
Yeah.
Like, well, so what? So what? Doesn't matter. If you sold 2 and your clients were super happy and you sold 30 and everybody thought you stunk, then what's it really matter, right? So I don't like those types of, accolades and atta-girls, you know what I mean? And one of them is days on market. And I specifically remember being at a CMA one time, and they were they were interviewing a couple different agents, which I think is great. Ask everybody the questions. I mean, you're going to have the most success when you sort of jam with the person that you're hiring. And they said, "Oh, could you please tell me what your DOM is?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is so funny to me because like an average
who says that?
Who says that? No one says DOM. No, what's your DOM?" And I was like, okay, so they was clearly talking to another agent, and clearly this agent made it a big deal, and clearly probably knew that I was going to be in there as well, and knows I have a high days on market. And the reason why I have a high days on market statistic is because I do a lot of new construction. So if you think about Cochesset Estates in West Bridgewater, which we're sort of winding down, we just opened up our final phase over there, phase 3. But we still have, I want to say like 18 homes left over there to sell. But we've been there for 2 years?
Yeah.
Or more. So we have this in MLS before we have a shovel in the ground. And one of the things is where our model is, that tends to be sort of our home base, and we don't like moving that around just because of geolocating us and different things that really matter. When days on market don't matter to me as a listing agent. Now, if you want to pull out my days on market, my new construction versus my resale, then I would say that I'm probably above or within par of what everybody else is. I said within par, and I have no idea what that means. I have never golfed. I've never golfed. Isn't that a golf term?
Yeah, like par. Like if it's a par 3, you should be able to make it in 3.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Okay, right? I
so
don't know.
My point of that is I'm guessing that my days on market are very much in line with what everybody else's are. So
yeah. Let's talk about timing the market. So when do you think is the right time to sell? I'll tell you that, or I'll ask you that. And, when do you think listings shine the best, and when do they not shine the best?
Well, we sort of talked about this a couple of weeks ago, didn't we?
Yeah.
And one of the things that we said is really there is, in my opinion, there is no good time. It matters what your motivation is, right? So if you really want to get your house sold, put it on whenever. Like right now, I don't think it's a bad idea to put a house on the market right now. I'm going to be putting one on the market probably next week, too, right? You can't get, one thing I know for sure is you cannot get your home sold if it is not on the market, right? And again, when days on market don't matter, I'm telling you, they don't matter. If you're working with a buyer's agent and you notice that a house has been on the market for a long time, tell your buyer's agent, please call the listing agent. Well, first of all, you shouldn't even have to tell your agent what to do. So if you need a good buyer's agent, call us here at Boston Connect and we'll hook you up with one of the best on the South Shore, because we have 28 of them, right?
Yeah.
So if the days on market, we can, as an agent who has been doing this for 24 years, I can look at a listing and see how long it's been on the market, and I can almost guess why it's been on the market that long. So if I put a listing on the market this week and it doesn't sell right away, chances are it's because it's closer to the holidays.
Yeah.
I think the buyers tend to sort of peel back a little bit because they have FOMO. And you had a little bit of this, and I saw Mackenzie had a little bit about this, and my client right now that I'm working with that's looking down in Plymouth, I'm like, if you put it, they don't want to close until later next year, into first quarter. If another one comes on the market, are you going to be disappointed, right?
Yeah.
So I think that buyers always, when they see limited inventory in the fall and in the winter, they think, well, let me just wait until the spring when more things come on the market.
Yeah.
Well, if you're a seller, you'd much better off being one of less than one of more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And if your days on market are longer, I had a client who said to me, I think I'm going to be ready to take my house off the market and wait through the holidays. Not a great idea. I promise you. No, we talked about this in depth, right? No one's going to bother you for a showing if they're not serious.
Yeah. Just going through this season, so spring, we would say that is historically the busiest season. So you would be one of many if you are a listing. So that offers peak exposure and also strong competition because you have you're one of many instead of one of less.
Exactly. And if our market switches the way that other markets have, and one of the things that I'm going to be sort of looking at a little bit further, and I maybe will ask if I can do a show with my brother-in-law or my niece, because they're really good at the finance aspect of things and job markets and all of that, is how that impacts our life as in real estate. And, I did notice I saw like 123,000 layoffs in Massachusetts last month, as we're seeing more layoffs, I think that a couple things might happen. One, we might see more houses come on the market because unfortunately people won't be able to afford their house, but they won't also be able to afford to rent. So what's going to happen? They're going to move out of our state, right? And they're going to go someplace like, I don't know where, Montana, Tennessee, Louisiana. Like those types of places.
Yeah. I would be interested if there's a statistic out there to know like how soon after somebody loses a job like that, how soon would they have to sort of make the decision to sell their home or move out of state.
Yeah.
And it would definitely depend on like how much they've had saved, how hard they're working to find another job and things like that.
Well, everybody should. I mean, I do not work for McNamara Financial. They definitely take care of all my stuff, but I know I listen to them enough to say, you should have 6 months reserve in the bank at all times if anything should go the wrong way.
Mm-hmm. Getting back to season, so midsummer can be slow during vacations. Fall markets can be strong, but interest statistically drops after mid-November.
Can we back up to the summer, though?
Yeah.
Because one of the things I want to say about the summer is, yes, it definitely slows down. When we're around 4th of July, that seems to be the month that everybody is, those first couple weeks especially. And I know because that's when I'm vacationing as well. But also we have a little bit of a rise with certain demographics because they're trying to get their kids into a new house before the school year starts. So we'll, maybe like the beginning of the summer, like late spring, early summer, then a little bit of a break, and then it will pull up again. And then it's one of those, I want to close in 30 days.
Yeah. I feel like we see a trend of quicker closings during that time. But winter listings may have fewer buyers, but more motivated ones.
Yeah, 100%. And too, I think that people think that the sellers are more motivated. And that's a common conversation that I have with my clients that are selling their home is that, well, I don't want anyone to think that I have to sell, that my motivation is that strong. And that's why I'm on the market in the winter. That's why you need a very strong listing agent, because I feel as if me having anybody who sees any of my properties, I call. Mm-hmm. Hey, I see that you set up an appointment to see my property. Can I tell you a few things about it? Hey, my client came on the market. I don't want you to think them being on the market right now is motivation driven.
Yeah. A couple buyer behavior trends. So back to school season, that motivates buyers, holiday commitments, weather related showing challenges. So we live in New England, everyone. So, that does impact some of your showings. Economic timing. So, mortgage rate shifts, job market announcements, and local development changes. So those are some economic timings as well.
Yeah. And it was one of the things that you said before that, with the winter and the seasonality of, the winter month and, sort of getting around the weather, right? So navigating the weather, it can be difficult, but it's one of those things. If you're planning an open house and we end up, first of all, you can do a 10-day forecast, right? So you can sort of see what the weather would potentially be like. But if the open house gets canceled, guess what? People sort of understand.
Yeah.
Like no one's going to be upset. And this is how I feel about open houses, by the way. Maybe we should just do a show on open houses. Do they really,
do they really sell a house?
Do they really sell a house? Can we do that next week? Do open houses really sell a house? Because I feel as if a buyer really is interested in a house, won't they call?
Yeah, I think what sells a house during an open house is the listing agent.
Yeah, that's sort of my jam. I like that.
Yeah. So I also want to touch upon micro markets. So the micro market nuances. So let's say that there's a home in, we'll say Hanover. So Hanover, it may go under agreement very quickly, but a very, very similar house in another town may take a little bit more time. So that's the micro market nuance. So the appeal to that Hanover market might be higher than the appeal to another surrounding town's market. And it doesn't mean that there's any difference in the homes. It's just where the thing that you can't change about it, which is the location.
And it's interesting too, because when we see that migration, I mean, we saw it big time during COVID, right? One of the things, like right now, Marshfield, let's just say Marshfield, I've noticed the prices in Marshfield have definitely, I should do some research on that too. They have definitely gone higher and higher and higher and higher, right? So the person who's looking for that 4-bedroom colonial with a 2-car garage, with, whatever they're looking for, if that person can't find it in Marshfield and they're priced out, that's when we start to see migration into touch towns, right? So it was interesting to me because recently I do have a client that is looking in Marshfield, and a property came up, and a couple properties we've actually looked at. We've actually put in a couple offers, and there's multiple offers on them. But then randomly a few weeks ago, I got something from Hanover. And I was like, so you would consider, if we bought this house in Hanover, it has more than what the house in Marshfield had. All we're doing is moving by 3 miles. Yeah. Right? And you have to be willing to do that. Of course, it comes into a lot of conversations if you have children or not.
Well, we talked and saw a lot of this during COVID, where there was such limited inventory and so many buyers, and a lot of it had to do with the interest rate and being able to sort of afford more, that they expanded their search from, okay, I only want Pembroke, to, okay, Hanson, Hanover, extending it out and just having that ability to go into another town and potentially get more for your buck.
Yeah, and there was a recent conversation I was having with some of my friends throughout the country, and we were talking about how Trump had come out with potentially we should have a 50-year mortgage, and there's pros, there's cons, there's whatever. I mean, the interest that you would inherit or whatever get from that is huge. But how many people actually stay in their original, mortgage anyways? But my thought was on all of this, I took a sort of a different approach. And it's like, well, it will make it more affordable for buyers. They can stretch out, another 20 years. They can stretch out their mortgage, which will make their mortgage payment less. At the end of the day, they're paying a whole lot more in interest. But then my thought was, and what buyer is actually going to do that? Because, as soon as a buyer can afford more, then they're going to hit their max. I don't know what that psyche is, or the psychology of that is, where people just don't say, oh, look, this is a great opportunity to stretch it out, live affordably, be in a decent house. They're going to be like, oh, now I can stretch myself even further with a 50-year mortgage and still be in the same situation.
Yeah. So let's talk about home sale contingencies as well. Or I'm sorry, I wanted to talk about the impact of poor timing. So timing the market. So a poor timing. So hitting the market during a distracted period. So that may result in fewer showings and reduce urgency. So I would think a distracted period would be 4th of July weekend. I would think that any major holiday, that whole entire week, I feel like some people take a step back and say, okay, I'm gonna live my life for a minute and then go back to my search.
And depending where the house is, I mean, if you have a house down in Falmouth, I'd say that the perfect time to put that on the market is 4th of July, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. Everything depends. And as buyer's agents and seller's agent, we should know. But as you were saying that, that's where I was thinking I could probably look at every single listing and say, oh, the reason why this one is still on the market is because they came on the market during 4th of July, or they came on this week in June, and that's when we had a lot of graduations going on. And you know what I mean? Where people are distracted with that type of stuff.
Yeah. Can we talk about how home sale contingencies sort of slow the pace of the selling process a little bit?
Yeah. And, one of the things with home sale contingencies, I think as a listing agent, I try my best to, help my clients get an offer that is, doesn't have, an offer that the person doesn't have a home sale contingency. But it's really hard to do for a couple of reasons. One, the majority of people can't, just buy a house without selling the one that they're already in. Or secondly, they don't want to commit to selling their house until they know that they have commitment from somebody else to buy their house. So there's all these different things that you have to sort of, I think of, what is this called? Seesaw?
Yeah, seesaw.
Yeah, you sort of have to level it out.
Weigh your options?
Yeah, weigh your options. But one of the things for me is a little bit of a control freak person. One of the things I hate about home sale contingencies when I'm the listing agent. So what a home sale contingency is for everybody is I have my house on the one of my listings. The offer comes in. They have to sell their house in order to buy this house. Now, as a buyer's agent, every smart buyer's agent is going to leave that very open-ended. Every listing agent is going to do the opposite. Every listing agent is going to say, all right, I'm going to give you 2 weeks to get your house on the market and get an accepted offer. In 2 weeks, we'll revisit where you are, and then we can take it from there, right? Sometimes people will do 3 weeks or a month or whatever it is. That's what's called negotiation, right? That's between the buyer and the seller. The problem I have is I'm not in control of that other listing. Yeah. So unless you know the other agent, you don't know, are they putting everything into it? Are they really advising their client the right way? I had a situation this year where the agent was telling me one thing and I was finding out something completely different, you know? Oh, well, we're going to be putting that on the market for $515, and then I go on and I see it's on the market for $545. Like, there's a big, huge difference there. So I have a problem with that because I'm putting confidence in somebody else to get their house sold in order to get my house sold. And then when I'm holding up my listing, that's why I only like to do it in like 2-week increments, because I don't want to lose any marketing time.
Yeah. I think that when it comes to the home sale contingency from a seller's perspective, they've done what they've needed to do to get their house sold, but now it's depending on somebody else selling their house. And you get to a certain price point where you sort of expect that someone might need to sell something in order to buy your property. And, you know, we see it a lot with the higher priced homes, or, you know, homes with in-laws, and, you know, you're sort of blending that family and coming together. But, you sort of have this thought of, okay, we've done everything that we've needed to do to get this property sold. Now it's up to a third party to get another property sold in order for us to move forward in our timeline.
And when you get an offer, when that person gets an offer on that other house, it's like, well, did they have a house to sell too? You know, so, and I have to say, like, right now I am in a transaction with somebody where my client's listing, the agent on the other side with the buyer has put their client's house on the market, and she has been so great to work with. She has been so really like forthcoming, so transparent. This is one of Kristen Howlett's big things that we talk about behind the curtain, let's say, like when we're all alone in our office here, and we're talking about, you know, just different things that happen in real estate. And a lot of times we're like, what is the big secret? Just tell us the truth. Like, negotiating isn't supposed to be about hiding things. It's about, you know, trying to bring our clients together. And this agent has done such a really, really, really good job of keeping me abreast of what is going on with the other listing, you know. And even just, you know, when I came back and I knew we had the holidays and everything, and I was in Dallas for a few days, I had reached out to her and I was like, hey, I know that our home sale contingency on the condo is expiring on the 28th. I figured I would just catch up, see where you are with it. She was like, yep, this is where we are, blah, 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 blah. And actually, no, she reached out to me first on that one. I reached out to her and just said, I wanted to let her know, hey, and now I'm reciprocating. Hey, just wanted to let you know the appraiser contacted me. I'm going to be meeting the appraiser on Tuesday. Thank you for the update. Perfect. Can you tell me when they're having the home inspection on your house, on the one she's selling? She's like, oh my gosh, I forgot to tell you with the holiday. Of course I understand. I'm actually just so super excited that you're telling me anything. Usually it's like pulling teeth, you know? So it's been really a pleasure. You know. Yeah.
We'll let you know if anything comes up.
Yeah. Or like, oh, should they be having a home inspection? Oh, I should check in with the buyer's agent.
Oh, I haven't heard.
The things we want to say, we want to do our own like podcast on the things you actually really want to say.
Yeah, seriously. The things that we say in private.
Yeah. One of the things, if we could go back a little bit, because as you were talking, and I know we have a big agenda and you're trying to get through it and you're doing a great job with that, but when you were talking about like, certain criteria that you think about, like putting the house on the market for 4th of July and everything. Like those are sort of things that we can maneuver, right? Like, hey, why don't we hold off until the week after, or what? You know what I mean? Those with those seasonal or holidays or whatever I want to call it that happen consistently throughout a year. One thing that we can't control is the uncertainty of other unexpected circumstances, like with the government shutdown. That definitely went, brakes sort of went on for everybody there, because buyers were like, whether they worked for the government or not, it puts this sort of, all I can think of is Charlie Brown with Linus, and like, like the dust all around him. Yeah. I'm going to wait until that all settles before I make a decision, because I don't have confidence in the market.
That's Pigpen, by the way.
Oh, Pigpen.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, Linus is the one that is.
He's got the blanket.
He has the blanket.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pigpen. Oh, yeah, that's so funny. You're so good at that stuff.
That's Pigpen.
If we had a sound for that, he would have came up with it for sure.
Well, we've talked about this a number of times of, the first year of a presidency is always sort of, we don't sort of know where people are going to go, and what they think. It's some people feel uneasy, some people don't. So it's always sort of a strange year of adjusting to the sort of new norm, I guess.
Yeah.
So when things like a government shutdown, where you can't really predict that that's going to happen or how long it's going to be,
or control, exactly.
Or control, you sort of get like a halt, like, okay, so our first thought was, okay, how does this impact the people who are already under agreement, or the people who we're showing houses to and have pre-approvals? Does this affect home loans or refinancing?
And it did. It did. People who had like a lock rate for certain types of government loans. If you had a USDA loan, right? That shutdown definitely impacted you. But that's what I mean about like uncertainty of, you always, and this is one of the things, and I don't know if it's a good thing about me or a bad thing about me. And I'm sort of, I thought about it the other day, because actually with my dad and the stage of where he is with his dementia, and in another lifetime, like, I'm going to be a candy striper and help those nurses. God love them. They all get a token directly to heaven in my eyes. But anyways, there's certain things that are going on with him, and I'm always thinking 2 steps ahead. That's how I am in real estate too. Like, and I'll always say to my clients, and sometimes I tell them what I'm thinking and sometimes I don't, but sometimes I'm thinking, okay, could this affect anything that's going on with me? I'm always looking 2 steps ahead, because I already want to have the answer if that should happen. If it doesn't happen, the only person's mind I've sort of fluffed up a little bit is my own. Yeah. But I was prepared.
And there's also so many different factors. So something that I learned during this government shutdown was, anybody receiving certain benefits or receiving, retirement or anything like that, there's certain interest rates that go into how much you get for that. And if the government wasn't releasing those interest rates, then your payment was being delayed, and that could have a effect on how much you can be able to afford and things like that. So it was definitely something that I learned over that time. But again, something that, is sort of a factor. Like, okay, so, why was this property on the market for so long? Why is there no buyer? It was because people might not be able to afford it right this second.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is, people will say that to me all the time. And like I said, I had a conversation just yesterday with one of my clients that's looking down in that Plymouth area. And, well, why had it already been on the market for 60 days? Why is it on for another 30 days? What's going on with it? And I was like, well, from what I can see, they haven't had a price adjustment. So my mind is already telling me, okay, they don't really want to close until like the end of next spring, or the beginning of next spring. So are they snowbirds? Like, you start to sort of think about like, what is their scenario so you can better help your client. What comps are they using? Why are they on the market for this much? How come they haven't had a price adjustment? What's their motivation? Like, there's just so many things and factors that we have to think about.
Yeah. Talking about things that we have to think about, can you explain what a 48-hour kickout clause is?
Yeah, so with the 48-hour kickout clause, it's one of those things where I can understand for buyers why they're hesitant to do this. And as a listing agent, I understand why I have to put certain things in line for my client to protect them. So a 48-hour kickout clause would be my client has their house on the market, somebody submits an offer. Maybe it's contingent upon them selling their house, right? Mm-hmm. So instead of the seller saying, hey, I'm willing to give you 2 weeks, where I tend to do it that way, like I'll give you 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks, you know what I mean? Like, mm-hmm. and when I say we're going to give you 2 weeks to get your house under agreement, I know it sounds like it's possible. Like the house I was just talking about, this agent was so good. We had 2 offers at the same time. And I was just like, you're telling me you don't want to put your house on the market for 3 weeks? And she's like, they didn't expect this house to come up and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I can't tell in good conscience. I cannot, as much as I like you as an agent. And I think that this would be a great fit and all the other things line up that would probably be perfect for my client. I honestly can't tell them to wait 3 weeks for you to just put your house on the market.
Yeah.
She literally got it on the market the next day.
Yeah.
Like, so it's possible to do that. And that's why if you are looking, you never know when the one's going to come up. Have your house ready to do that. I've already forgotten your question. Oh, 48-hour kickout clause. So for me, I said, okay, let's just we're going to look at this in 2 weeks. Okay, so the first 2 weeks went by. They didn't get an offer on it. So this is me saying to the agent, the buyer's agent on my property, who's now the listing agent on that, all right, how have your showings been? Do you think it's price? What has the feedback been? It's almost my way of being able to sort of be intricately part of that process, like where I can ask the questions and get the answers that I need, so I can then bring them to my client and they can make the best decision. Yes, we'll extend another 2 weeks, or no, if they're not going to be realistic, then we're not going to. A 48-hour kickout clause would be, all right, yep, we're going to accept your offer. However, if we get a cash offer with no contingencies that comes forward, then we have the ability to accept that offer, not just because it's more money, by the way, but we have the opportunity to take that offer, and you have 48 hours to drop your home sale contingency.
Yeah. Which some people can't.
Yeah.
I mean, some people, with, like I said earlier in the show, is, there gets to a certain price point where you sort of expect that someone might have to sell a home in order to afford it. So if you get in that situation with the 48-hour kickout clause, can that buyer really drop their contingency if, they can't afford to purchase it with cash or anything that they have, or even with financing without selling their current home?
Yeah, and the thing is the situation, I can understand from a seller's perspective why that makes really good sense to them, especially whatever their motivation is. If they're like, hey, I have a new job in Chicago, I got to get out, you know what I mean? Like, I can't be waiting forever. But, I have clients who are just like, I don't have to sell my house. I want to sell my house, I want to downsize. I want to upsize, whatever it is. But I also think when I'm the listing agent, I'm pretty hard on the buyer of my listing. Like, all right, we're not going to wait until you get your house under agreement in order for you to do all the other things.
Yeah.
You're going to have your home inspection, so you're going to invest money into this. Like, why should my client be the only one taking risk right now?
Yeah.
Have your home inspections, sign the purchase and sales agreement, have your escrow deposits in front of us and with us. And then with the 48-hour kickout clause, I think for buyers, it's a little more risky for them. They're like, all right, I'm going to invest all this time, energy, and money. But what the seller is actually saying is, if something better comes along, I'm going to take it. They're not really going to give me the opportunity. So if I was to do a 48-hour kickout clause, if I was the buyer's agent, I would reverse what I do now, because I have confidence in myself as a listing agent. So if my client had something to sell and they wanted to put a 48-hour kickout clause on me, I would potentially say, how about you give me 2 weeks to try to get this house under agreement? If I can't get it under agreement within those 2 weeks, then we'll do a 48-hour kickout clause.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So at least give my client some opportunity to sort of win.
Yeah. And as a buyer's agent, if your buyer is thinking about seeing a property that already has a 48-hour kickout clause on it, but it's been like that for a while, ask the question of where they're at in the process. Okay, how come it's, this went, with the 48-hour kickout clause 3 weeks ago? Where are you in that process? But getting back to days on market, I want to talk about pricing the home based on its true condition and how that affects days on market.
Well, and I do think that, in certain markets that we have, the seller mentality and the seller psyche is what switches. Not so much the buyers, it's more so the sellers. And it obviously depends. Are we in a seller's market where we have less than 3 months inventory that will take us, to sell? The absorption rate, or is it a buyer's market where the buyers are like, oh, I'm going to eeny, meeny, miny, mo, this is the house I'm going to go for, right? With the days on, so like with pricing strategy, there are a group of people that will say, oh, I'm just going to test the market and see what happens.
Yeah.
So the houses tend to be on the market. It's very different than it used to be when I first got into this industry 24 years ago. Is before, the consumer didn't have the ability to just go online and find out how much a house sold. So like one of my clients that I'm working with right now, they're like, I don't think the house is worth what they are because I found 5 other houses that sold in this area that were a lot less, right?
Yeah.
So we have the ability to do that. So sellers are sort of testing a market that's sort of testing them.
Yeah.
But what ends up happening is people before it would be like, oh, let's just put it on for this. Let people throw me an offer.
Yeah.
Right? It's like throwing Jell-O up against the wall.
Yeah.
Let's see if it sticks. Back in the day, it may have, but now it doesn't. Now it's, hey, let's just wait until the seller gets realistic because this is not a really good selling price. Here's a little fun fact that I found out one day this week, I don't remember what day, but I was talking to my friends on Clubhouse, and my friend Cindy from Utah, who has actually come on the show with us a couple times here, she was telling us about Zillow. In her area, and I noticed this in Texas. Remember, I showed you the house that Mackenzie bought. It doesn't show the sale price. So there are these non-disclosure states. There's, I forget how many there were. Someone looked it up as we were talking. I want to say, let's just say there were 10 of them. Non-disclosure states where they cannot list the sale price to be publicly known out there. So it can't be on Zillow. So it isn't just Zillow. It's Zillow, it's realtor.com, it's homes.com. The only person who knows what the house sold for is the buyer, the seller, their agents, the attorneys or title state or whatever, the title company. And that's it.
Why?
They don't, it's actually good. I think it's good for them as real estate agents because the only person who can give people that information is the real estate agent, right? So I don't know. They call it a non-disclosure state.
Interesting. I feel like you'd get a lot of calls of how much did this property sell for?
Yeah, probably.
And think about when you're doing your CMAs, like you're going to be giving that information to your potential seller because that's how you do a CMA is you tell them what. So it's interesting.
But that means that the seller needs the agent.
Yeah.
More so than just being able to.
So
go
I wonder.
online.
I wonder how low their for sale by owner rate is.
Well, probably not as high as ours because they can't figure it all out. And then one of the questions I had is like, how do they do a Zestimate, or how do they, the algorithms of all these different websites like homes.com, realtor.com, and they're like, this is the value of your house. They're using tax information and assessment information versus what else has sold in the area.
Interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, and even so, they haven't been, the town doesn't go into your home and say, oh, you've done this and you've done that.
Well, some towns do. Some towns do.
Some towns.
Yeah, but for the
most part, no one's knocked on my door yet. So to ask what.
And that's the thing, too, is if people are doing improvements and things like that, you can't see it. And I feel that way even now, even though we have to get inside the house. We do a 2-stop CMA.
I always think that it's interesting when, you're talking with somebody about a property that is probably similar to theirs that has come on the market, and their response is, oh, mine's better. Yeah. And I want to be like, well, why? Why do you believe so?
Well, my term. Nobody has an ugly baby.
Has an ugly baby.
Nobody has an ugly baby. And one of the things I was looking at down here was specific things that, that sort of prevent a home from maybe selling is, the layout and the floor plan. And I would say one of the big things was, oh, I want an open floor plan, right? Or, and then, so like the older homes were struggling a little bit. Then when we had COVID, everyone's like, listen, I need some walls.
Yeah.
Because I can hear them doing math. I can hear them doing history, and I'm trying to work on the phone while my husband's also doing something on the phone. So I think that the style of a home has a lot to do with it. And I got to tell you, Mackenzie showed me some layouts of some houses that I couldn't believe. The layout of it had like sunken, like bump, like type setup.
A sunken what?
Living room area around a fireplace, and it was all couches, and they were all white couches, and you could tell like someone had spilled the bourbon on it or something.
You could film a movie there.
Yeah. One I wouldn't be watching, by the way.
Yeah.
So it was, but the layout definitely has a lot to do with it. But you know what else comes into play? And I'm thinking about somebody else I was showing a house to, and we're in the car, and I generally don't have my phone with me, but I did say to them, listen, I am waiting for a call from an attorney. That is so if they call, I do have to take that call. And they understood 100%. And the call came, we were in the car. I pulled up to the front of the house, and when I hung up the phone, they said, do we even have to go into the house? And I was like, no, if you feel as if you don't like it now, like there's no reason for us to go inside. I was like, but let me ask why. They're like, we are not looking at that. The house across the street was the reason the house, they didn't even want to go into it. It could have been perfect. It could have had every single thing they wanted, but they're like, I'm not looking out my window to look at that.
Did you leave that feedback?
Yeah. I'm honest with feedback. You can't make what's wrong right unless you know what's wrong. I don't take it personally. When people give me feedback and they're like, well, and I was like, I don't live there.
Yeah.
You're not hurting my feelings, but I can't make what's wrong right for my client if you don't tell me what was wrong.
Yeah. I think busy roads are also, for a certain demographic, it might not work for them. A lot of the times if a seller is living in a home with, a busy road or anything like that, it worked for them and it was fine for them, but there might be a certain demographic that's like, no, we want to stay away from that. We want a neighborhood. We want a cul-de-sac. We want something like that.
And there is a certain demographic that maybe the busy road is okay. Like I find a lot of like my first responders and, a lot of people who are self-employed, they tend to feel, they're like, I don't want to be in the cul-de-sac. I don't want everybody, the person up on the hill looking in my living room window saying, oh, I like your new sofa. True story. Oh. It wasn't a sofa. It was a chair. Oh, called the person across the street and said, oh, I noticed that you have a new chair.
Yeah.
All right. That's creepy. So I know we only have 2 minutes left.
We could go on and on and on, but final thoughts on why properties stay on the market? Yeah,
so I guess I'm just going to say it depends. It really does really depend. It depends on the seller's motivation. It matters on what is going on in the world at that time. Seasonality could have something to do with it. Motivation could have something to do with it. Unrealistic sellers could have something to do with it. So the most important piece I can say out of this whole entire show is make sure that you have a buyer's agent that is the type of agent that is very hands-on, that's going to make the phone call to find out exactly why is that house on the market, because that's what I'll say to people when they call me. Hey, you might have noticed that we were on the market, then off the market. This is the reason why. Yeah. So make sure you do that. But if you want a great buyer's agent, as you know, we have many of our agents join us here on the radio show. So we would connect you with one of them here at Boston Connect, 781-826-8000. And make sure you find all of our open houses this weekend because the holidays may be near, but you may still need to buy a home.
Mm-hmm. And you can get in before the holidays.
You can get in before the holidays. Go to Cushing Trails, 10 to 12, Saturday and Sunday. Sue Bollinger and Faith Birmingham are going to be there this weekend, or Cochise Estates over in West Bridgewater, 10 to 2. And Mary Horton and Kristen Howlett are going to be there this weekend. So go find them.
Yeah, you can go to bostonconnect.com to find all of our contact information and any of our past shows. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Bye, Tim. Have a great one.
Like you, I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood.